You're listening to Changing Reality. Changing Reality, where we bend reality all across the world. Only on WQHS Radio.
So hi everyone and welcome back to another amazing episode of Changing Reality. We're so thrilled to have you all with us here this Thursday. So Changing Reality, for all of you who do not know, is a show that features phenomenal people from all walks of life who are in essence changing their own reality. So we'll be hanging out and interviewing social change makers, entrepreneurs, top business owners, thought leaders, to even artists, musicians, and inspiring individuals from all across the board and all across the world as well. And oftentimes people who have spent time here on the Penn campus too, such as our speaker for today. So a little spoiler for y'all. So we get to hear these inspiring stories on how they are making waves in the world around them. And hopefully from listening to these bits of inspiration, we can take away the lessons that we can from their experiences so that we can figure out how we can create the reality that we want for ourselves as well. And I wanted to do this show simply because I feel like there are so many people out there who do phenomenal things and are changing the lives of the people around them, are changing their own lives. And I'm super passionate about learning from their experiences of how they're doing that and how they're using the resources in their own capacity to actually make a difference. And I personally believe so much in this power of stories because I've seen it actually change lives around me. I actually founded and run a youth movement called Ascendance in Malaysia, which is where I'm from, that collaborates with not just the Malaysian Ministry of Education, but organizations all around the world to provide an alternative education platform for any student who wants to learn to change their reality. So we work with students from elementary all the way up to college through various sessions, programs, experiential learning activities, and projects that help them discover their passion, learn about themselves and the world around them, and start their own careers while they're still in school. That creates meaningful impact not just for themselves, but for those around them too. And to date, we've been fortunate to work with over 15,000 people in 970 communities and have incubated a countless number of student-run projects and social enterprises run by students aged 8 to 25 years old. So kind of like the underlying factor that's enabled them to do all of this is the experiences that we've gotten from so many kind individuals across the world. And from their experience, their guidance, their stories, they've actually managed to take the lessons from that and actually grow themselves, grow their own careers. And so much so that even just this last weekend, we actually had a conference for 50,000 students all across the world from 28 different countries. And that was only possible because we had so many kind Gen Z entrepreneurs, multiple award-winning entrepreneurs actually come in and share their stories with others of how they first started. So if you have any questions about it, if you have any questions about the show, if you have any topics that you want to talk about or stories that you want to uncover, do drop it in the show chat below and we'll see what we can do about it. But meanwhile, I hope that this show is that spark of inspiration for you so that you can learn from these messages and go out there and create your reality as well. So moving on to our episode for today. Today we have someone from the Wharton Executive Education Department here at Penn. And he's truly someone amazing. He provides need-based, impactful learning solutions to some of the largest organizations, not just in the United States, but across the world, I'd argue. And as the regional director, he develops corporate partnerships, identifies and evaluates opportunities with prospective clients, and maintains the lead in developing and fostering these relationships. He's also responsible for planning and execution of growth strategy, and not only enables new business growth, but as well as the retention of their existing strategic clients. So without further ado, let's welcome the amazing person behind all of this, the amazing Levent, the Director of Corporate Partnerships at Wharton Executive Education. Hello.
Hi, Asha. Thank you for inviting me. When you started talking about the program, I was like, am I in the right program? You know, the artists, the actors, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong place. But joke aside, thank you very much. And hearing you, what you've done last week, and I followed in LinkedIn. That's such an inspirational story. I'm so amazed with what you're doing at this young age. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And you are very, very kind. I'm going to now spoil my process for the audience, but we had a pre-interview and your story is something that I feel brought up so many lessons that I personally took on for my own work, but I feel would inspire many of them who are just starting out as well. So, like today, you're someone who is incredibly successful. As I said, you work with some of the biggest companies out there. You bring lifelong learning to their doorstep in a sense. But where does your story actually start? Since you are in the business of learning, since you are in the education realm, how is this something that you thought of when you were a student first starting off? I know you did a Bachelor of Science and then management,
Yeah.
but did you think back then that today you'd still be in this education line, or was there something else that you thought of back then?
Well, not necessarily. Okay, because this journey is really the journey itself is the story. You don't know where you're going a lot of times. You make some assumptions, but at the end of the day, you get somewhere that, in other words, your experiences, your relationships, those are the things that makes you get where you are today. I mean, I'm originally from Turkey, and was did my undergraduate in Turkey at a Middle East Technical University, which I'm very proud of, one of the best public schools I'd say in the world, because all our faculty were either from Cornell, UNC, so they had their PhDs from their Turkish faculty, but gave us an education that I still use it today. So that was my first introduction to real life. That 4 years of sleepless nights. I mean, we would see. I mean, it's just been amazing. I mean, one thing I learned at a very young age is when my father was exporting uh, cars from Germany into Turkey, and I was one of the drivers. I learned to become a businessman. And I shouldn't say this, but I'll say how to wiggle my way in different countries and understand cultures, learn how to work with the custom officers. I'm not using the B word here, that bribe word, but at least give them something to make it easy to go through. So at a very young age, I remember vividly when I was in high school, they asked me what I want to be, and it was an English high school. So I mean, everything was taught in English. I said businessman, and that was, of course, the influence I had from my father. Like every Turkish, undergraduate student, the dream was to come to United States and get a master's degree, and that's what prompted me come to the United States, where I, really kind of gotten into this whole thing. But I shared some of this, I'll share it again, some crazy stories. Because, for example, when I was in Turkey, we used to write, software, but we would use punch cards. So, these punch cards, I'm giving my age away here, but these punch cards, you had to punch them, put it in a card box, give it to the central processing unit, and then they will send you this paper, pages long, and you try to find where the errors are. So that's how I learned how to do things. But what that gave me actually at that age is to do things rather than pushing like something like a enter button and find the result. Instead, I was really going into the details. So I'm answering you a little bit longer than I should. I know that, but I didn't know what I was going to do other than I want to become a businessman. So how I ended up in Wharton Executive Education is a completely different and long story, and I'm happy to share that with you today.
All right, we'll try to track it as much as we can. So so you were this young undergraduate who was going to pursue your master's degree. You got into a very good school, Ohio University, in the United States. And personally, for me, as someone who has unfortunately not yet set foot in the United States, we see a lot about it on movies and television and how life is like across the world. For you, as someone who at that point in time was moving to a new country, a new school, and things like that, how was it like being suddenly in a new country and a new culture? Was it everything that we see in the latest Hollywood blockbusters, or was it a little bit different in reality?
See, I had that advantage. I lived in Germany and I traveled extensively in Europe. So I had an image of outside Turkey. So this kind of gave me a base, different cultures, living in Germany for 5 years as a little kid and being able to travel to many countries. I mean, that was a luxury for me. Uh, Looking back, of course, right now, where I went to, France, I went to Holland, I went to Spain, you name it. So the image of United States for me was this unbelievably high tech. I'm talking 1983 here, unbelievably high tech. Everything, um, space type, everything is motorized and whatever. So, but I ended up first in Clemson, South Carolina. You know how big is Clemson, South Carolina? The total population is about 35,000 with students, and I think the student population is about 30,000. So that was that's my first time in the United States. I'm like, and I had no idea where I was coming, of course, but from there I went to Ohio University, and the reason why I went to Ohio University was, again, I will talk about this. My mentor, who I started knowing him in my undergraduate, was teaching at Ohio University, and I wanted to really do an MBA. So then from Clemson, I went to Athens, Ohio, an old mining town, which became a university town, and and that was also another shock. This is from south to north, so the culture is different. And the funny thing is, when I was at Clemson, I worked at the cafeteria, and they would ask me, you know, do this. But as you know how thick the southern accent is, I would not understand for the life of me. That was my biggest fear, not understanding English. But I have I was educated in English for nearly 12 years. So I thought I knew English. But when I came here, I realized that my English was only educational English, not, common daily language. So that was a problem that I had to go through too. Clemson was one story. Ohio was another story. Honestly, what I found in the United States was not what I envisioned. It was a little bit more, I think, utopic, like you said, we see it in the movies. Not the crime side. It was more, I was expecting something more clean, more developed, more like I was very surprised with the lack of infrastructure for public transportation. You have to have a car, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Because as you might know, in Europe, you go from one place to another. There's always some sort of a public transportation. So those things kind of shit. But the language barrier was probably the hardest thing I encountered when I first came, because I was worried that, and I didn't answer the phone for 6 months. I have to admit, because like I don't understand what they're saying, even though we speak the same language. So what I expected and what I came to in terms of culture and surroundings was that. But education, one thing I first came in front of is this, screen that I'm talking to you right now. It was the first time I saw that in the United States with a terminal. We have a keyboard. I'm like, wow, now this is amazing. So that's where I kind of said, okay, this is different. This is exactly what I wanted to do. So I was able to play a lot with the computer and write codes and whatnot. Uh, I loved OR, operations research. So I was solving problems with the computer. So it was quite two different kind of experiences. One on the cultural side was quite different than what I thought, and secondly, on the educational side, it was definitely a good educational with all the computers you have, your faculty has, you have your own cubicles, which is like, wow, I have a cubicle where I can do my own work. So those things really kind of balance, and you get used to after a while. Of course, I mean, you're like, all right, this is what it is. So adapt and move on. So that's what I would say. coming to United States had a different kind of effect on me.
No, very, very interesting. And you brought up so many good points that I think I just want to spend one more question on this part of your journey,
Please.
because I personally know many people or even me coming from a different country in a sense, where when we speak to people like from the US, from the UK, even sometimes it's like that inferiority of, is my English good enough, or some people that I work with, English may not be their first language. It's not that they don't have a brilliant command of it, it's just that it's not their first language. So, and all of these things kind of like, as we start moving towards a more global world, or at least for the youngsters that I work with, as they start interacting with people from all across the world, there might be a little bit of like a difficulty to kind of like fit in together, or kind of like see past cultural, like the way that we do things. So for you, in a sense, what really helped you kind of like integrate and like mix with different cultures? Because as you mentioned, that you spend your life in like different cultures even as a kid, and then like it seems something that comes very natural to you in a sense. So what's your pro tip in that?
I think my advantage was, again, being in different cultures, growing as a kid from age 2 to 7 in Germany. I was able to experience some of those cultural differences. Um, Having said that, I have to have a confession. Am I allowed?
Sure, go ahead.
After 38, 39 years in the United States, I still don't feel that I'm fully integrated. And I think that's normal because I'm the first generation of immigrant. I mean, my kids were born here, grew up here, educated here, and they live here. They have a different set of value system than where I came from. So integration is hard to do, but adaptation is a little bit different. So you need to adapt, but integration, I am not sure I'll be ever integrated. I think my Turkishness will always be there. But the good thing about United States is you are called Turkish American, Italian American, Irish American, you know. So there is that differentiation. You can still create that. You try to keep that cultural identity and interact with the Italian Americans or the Irish Americans. So my wife is both German and Irish background. So, and I'm Turkish. So we have this mixture, but that's okay in United States. So you can adapt to those kind of value exchanges. But integration, I'm not sure, Harsha, fully integrated. So, and I don't expect it to be fully integrated because I really wanted to keep my core values of being a Turk and then still be called Turkish American because I'm a naturalized citizen and I vote and everything, but I still have quite roots in Turkey, and I still do look back and say, it is there. It's my roots are still there, and my kids. Well, that's a different story. You need to speak to them for that.
No, but that's quite interesting in a sense. Like you see, even in a generational differences, how people interact differently with the places that they're in, the country that they're in. That's quite interesting. So
Yes.
back to your story in a sense, as you were going now into like the working world, when you were in like coming out of your master's degree, how did you actually start like discovering what was the path for you? How did you start getting on in your career journey in a way? If I'm not mistaken, you started off in tourism, right?
Yeah. Correct. Um, First thing first. For those out there who's listening, I want to give you one advice. Even if you have the best degree from United States, an MBA, undergraduate, especially in today's world, it's very hard to stay in this country because of the new immigration rules and everything else going on. At that time, when I got my MBA, I thought I would find my job like this. Oh, yes, I have an MBA. I coming from one of the best universities from Turkey. I will find something. My first lesson is this: network. I think that word is followed me all my life. I did not have a network in the United States because I wasn't raised here. I didn't have the social connections that I have. Everyone I knew was Turkish, and 90% of them went back to Turkey. I'm probably one out of 10 stayed, and I'm one of them because I decided to stay. So in that sense, it was, it was really hard for me to, make that, trying to figure out how to do this. And what I tried to do at that time is, is it true what I'm doing here is the thing I want to do? How I do it? How do I find a new job for myself? So I went to my Turkish network, okay, and my Turkish network was my cousin who was working at a cart store as a part-time for a Turkish person. He, on the other hand, knew the tourism company, which I had a background from Turkey as a tour guide, said, Levent just got his MBA. Why don't you just get it, see if you would like to hire him? He's a good guy, he would do it. And that's how I got my first job in the United States as an office manager for VIP tourism. Still existence in Turkey, one of the largest in Turkey. But, one thing I also believe a lot is the fate part. I mean, you can only control certain things. That's lesson number two. Don't worry about uncontrollable factors. Don't bother with them. Just count. Look at what you can control, okay, and try to work with them. So after a year and a half, the Lockerbie bombing happened, the Pan Am, and we lost 90% of all revenue, and they had to close the New York office. And so I was out and I didn't have a job. But, again, networking, and my mentor ended up in Boston. So I drove to Boston. I said, I have no place to stay. I want to come to Boston and live here. Can you help me? Sure, why not? Come here. They gave me a room. I stayed there, and then they asked another person to find me another job in the travel industry. So this is all about, I'm talking about networking here. You constantly go after your network and try to find those connections. That's going to help you, because honestly, that's the easiest way to find a job. Even today, I don't care how much education you have, how successful you are, someone needs to give you that network, and then you should be able to, with your education, of course you have to have education experience, resumes mean something, but networks are critical. So that was my second step to Boston, where I spent about 7 years, met my first wife, who was my boss. I shouldn't have said that, but I did. And then we got married, 2 kids, and so forth. And then the company was bought by another company, and they laid off everyone in the term of re-engineering everything. So, and that's basically where I stopped my career in travel industry. As you can see, I am right now a regional director doing executive education, and I have nothing in common with what I'm doing today versus what I was doing. At least that's what I'm thinking. But those experiences and expertise you're gaining is going to help you in the future, one way or another.
No. That's absolutely amazing. And I think even in that story, you touched on so many different points. Like, I like even the point of building a network. I feel like sometimes when we hear the word network, we imagine you watch these spy movies where they have like these contacts of these high profile contacts and all of that. But actually, in reality, it's just the people that we know. Like as you mentioned, your cousin, your friend, your mentor. So it's people in your immediate circle.
Yeah.
So even then, just reaching out to them, I feel sometimes like one of the things that when we work with students who are starting up their own business, we always say that your first clients are going to be the people who know you, your family, your friends, and things like that, because they're the ones who are going to believe in you first in a way.
Because they are the
So
ones who's going to buy from you, or they're the ones who's going to give you the money. They're the ones who are going to, when you're crying, hold you and say, it's okay. So Those are your first network members, and your college friends, your buddies. My next two jobs actually was as a result of my college buddies. So again, from Turkey.
Okay, you after that, I think if I'm not mistaken, went into consulting, right? So
Yes,
how did that
probably.
actually happen? It's a bit of a change from
Yeah, I
current.
know. Well, whatever you have to do to make a living. At that time, um, I was a TA, teaching assistant at Harvard University Extension School, again, to my mentor. And what happened was we, a Turkish student came from, of course, from Turkey, and she was the daughter of this conglomerate ceramic tile producer, one of the largest, not in Turkey but in the world, and they're still like that. The father died. She took over right now, and so she came to our program. She was our student, and she said, Professor Attach, who's my mentor, could you do a market and marketing research for us, because we want to export into United States from Turkey? She said, and could you do this for us, because you're a marketing professor? So we ended up forming this group called Harvard Consulting Group. Okay, all right, I know it's a very strong name. And it probably, if we had continued, we would have problems with the name. So we didn't use it. So Harvard Consulting Group was formed by my mentor and myself. And our first job was to write this research, do the survey. We ended up writing a 550-page survey. It's for their marketing, how they can enter into the United States, what channels. So this is my entrance into consulting, kind of research and everything based on what I learned. And we realized, or they realized actually, that they had to change their production line to be able to export into the United States. It was a no-go, but I gained a lot of experience on how to do consulting and whatnot. So as a result of that, we formed Harvard Consulting Group, that ceramic tile market study for the US market. And in the same class, we had an Italian student who became my good friend, by the way, right now. So whenever I go to Modena, I visit him. They have the best, cheeses and whatnot, and balsamic vinegar is something there, and it's just this. It's not like that liquid thing. It's thick. It's just, yeah, when he puts that thing in there, it's delicious. Anyhow, if anybody goes to Modena, cheese with balsamic vinegar, but the good quality, like 20-year-old, I would highly recommend it. So I'm putting a little bit here and there. So hopefully that's okay, Harsha. So he ended up working for this group called Creomini group in Italy. And they had um, a competitor to McDonald's at that time called Burgi. And Turkey was in the initial stages of franchising.
Mhm.
Initial stages of franchising. We had no franchising. McDonald's just started coming in. They had like 3 stores. There were huge lines in front of these McDonald's, like you've seen when they opened in Moscow, in Beijing. That's the same thing in Istanbul, huge line. So we thought that it might be, there's a possibility that if we take Burgi, the Italian franchise, into Turkey and compete with McDonald's. So, but of course, we have to find some master licensee, master licensor. And so here is my franchising experience now. I mean, so this is all on the go. And then we found the investors, their restaurateurs. We traveled to Italy together, and they decided that they're going to pay the master license fee, and whatnot. And we were going to be Harvard Consulting Group does this. We said HCG, by
Wow.
the way. We would be their consultant, work with them, and the Cremini Group, and I would be the guy. I mean, guess what happened? So they flew in their private plane to Ankara, where their headquarters was, the Turkish investors' headquarters. I met them in the tarmac, VIP treatment. I took them. We dined them, wined them. Next day, agreements are ready. Three, there were like three partners that's going to be investing. Two signed, one didn't sign. The deal was off. So what I
What?
learned, yes, what I learned at that time was unless you see it on the paper, never assume anything. Today, we still talk with Alfiero is his name, and we talk like, what happened there? But what I learned again at that, I mean, it was a big blow to me because that would have been my, future.
Yeah.
I would have been doing that. I said to Alfiero, what I learned is what more important than what I didn't win that day. Because in life, my philosophy has always been, it's not win or lose, it's win and learn. It's still an L, but it's win and learn. Because even when you lose, you learn a lot of things. So it was a great story. I learned a lot, but we lost a lot of money. So what? Well, life goes on. So that's the end of Harvard Consulting Group. I said, I can't do this anymore. I need to earn a living. I have two kids, etc. That's when my college buddy came and said, it was right after the first Gulf War and Turkish, there was textile quotas at the time where United States allowed certain countries only so much to send. And he came to me and said, do you want to do this? So again, network. My college buddy and I formed this organization. I was the US office, started in Boston, then we moved to New York to Broadway, where the garment center is. And there's a lot of other stories there that I can talk about it, but it might take 10 hours. Do we have time?
Maybe for part two, but no, maybe one or two, and like we can continue in a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, I mean that was another great story because it was 13 years, by the way. That business
Wow.
was for 13 years. We did unbelievable business. Some highlights. We became Toys R Us, Kids R Us, Babies R Us agent, their buying agent in Turkey. And there's a company called Lian Fund. Maybe you guys might know it. They're like a $5 billion Hong Kong based agency. We beat them in Turkey. Again, for cultural reasons. They didn't know the market as well as we did. We knew the market. My partner at that time grew up in that textile industry in Turkey. He knew everyone. His network was very good. He knew the factory base. He knew the QC problems. And I created the relationship on the US side. Again, I built an unbelievable network with you know, those companies like $500 million companies with sales. Uh, but I learned quite a few things there. One was um, you never compete with your price. That's lesson number one there. You know why? Because you can't win with price. You need to find other things to be able to compete. And I quickly realized that we had some competitive advantages from Turkey. Turkey is a textile country. We have quota, and we're more expensive and the same quality. I realized that the turnaround time from the day they order to the time we deliver was much shorter than the China, Bangladesh, and Pakistan and all the other countries, even Malaysia at that time. So instead of doing in 4 to 6 months, we were able to do it in 1 to 2 months. And that gave them a lot of flexibility. Last minute orders, not attaching to my finance. So you need to find that's the first thing I learned that truly in that business, because at one point we were at $30 million per year sale. And that was a good number from because we started from zero. So what I learned is you need to find your niche. You're not selling a product, you're selling a service. And you need to really find out what that service is. I mean, as you can see, I start building my knowledge base, and all these experiences is helping me today with what I'm doing. And again, after 13 years, China came into the picture much stronger. Quotas were eliminated, and we said, okay, we can't do this anymore because we can't compete anymore. So that's when we had to stop the business, and I had to move on. And I ended up going to International Trade Center, become their consultant trainer for supporting small, medium enterprises. I'll stop here. I know you have probably a lot of questions.
No, no, no. I think you're telling the story amazingly. I just wanted to I think our audience is also in awe. So, guys, if you have any questions, make sure that you drop it in the chat below. But wow, that is an amazing story, and I love those lessons that you picked up along the way. Your next role, in a sense, was, as you mentioned, consulting in a way. And how do you think, like you started off as a consultant earlier in your career as well, and then now you're kind of like back at this position. Do you think those experiences that you had in between made much of a difference to now you're consulting, and what difference did it make in a sense?
A lot, because I've seen a lot of consultants, or they call themselves consultants, but they don't know anything about how to run a business. If you don't know how to run a business, I don't think you should be called a consultant. The biggest problem with management or business is it's always thought that anybody can do it. Look, I had a total of 6 years of training in management, 4 years undergraduate, 2 years. Today, I don't want to put anybody down, and I apologize, but even an engineer says, I'm a leader. I can manage a thing. It's not that easy. It's not just like, trying to do this. So every time I've done a business, I learned more on top of what I was trained for. So that really helped me. The reason why I was very eager to go to do the International Trade Center, UNDP is the mother organization at Switzerland, because when I was doing the garment business, the ready-wear business for 13 years, I've seen some very bad factories, small and business enterprises that needed really help. And at that point, I wasn't in a position to go and help the factories, but that's kind of where I started. I said to myself, I want to help small businesses because I know I have the knowledge. I know how to do marketing. I know how to start a business. I want to do this in a way so that I can help other people. So that's how I ended up at ITC. Again, my mentor was there. So that was also the main reason, but it was exactly aligned with what I wanted to do, helping those businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, so that they can learn from someone like me. And I share my experiences. I couldn't have done that if I haven't done all that businesses and had all those experiences. I mean, for them, creating a business on the United States from zero up to $30 million was something of an unbelievable story, because they've tried so many times. They always worried about the Walmarts, the Kmarts, the Sears, the JC Penney's. They kill us. They don't give us enough pricing, blah, blah, blah. That's what they used to say. And I tried to explain them that there are other ways of doing this business. And that's where I got into international trade center. Without that experience, I wouldn't have been a good consultant, a trainer, or an advisor, or a mentor, whatever you want me to call. But that was critical to be able to get all that experience.
Amazing. And starting to work with these smaller businesses who probably were already trying to start up their businesses and trying to grow and facing these setbacks. For you, as somebody advising them, what was the biggest challenges in getting them to grow? Was it their mindset? Was it like past failures, like restricting future successes, or was it just having to show them a different way of actually doing business in a way? What was the biggest challenge?
Lack of resources.
Mhm.
And when I say resources, people will give you only two resources to run a business: finance, and which is cash or loan, and human resources, and probably some infrastructure. There are two more very critical resources to run a good business. So there's actually five. Definitely finance,
Mhm.
definitely human resources, definitely infrastructure. That could be a store, that could be a factory, that could be an office, anything you can think of. The two others, whenever I ask a small business, they can never answer me. And I wanted to help them that way. One, you should know by now. We talked about this a lot.
Network, I'm guessing.
Exactly.
All right.
Network, network. Another one is knowledge, know-how. All these five are resources. And a lot of times, small businesses don't realize which ones they have, which ones they don't have, and how to allocate these resources. So that's the biggest problem to understand. And a lot of these small businesses are family businesses also. Okay. And there are generational differences and whatnot. So it is really about giving them, starting with where not to compete, where not to break. I mean, you see, have you ever heard the expression, cheap price, good quality?
I've heard of the expression, but yep, I
That's
find
what
it hard
small
to
business,
believe.
yeah, that's what the quandrum with the small businesses are. They always want it to be high quality, but cheap pricing. And I said, always to say, if you're high quality, why are you cheap? Make it better. Increase your prices. So, I mean, to answer your question, I mean, there is, the small businesses need a lot of hand. They could be successful. I mean, entrepreneurs are same way. I mean, they need to understand that they need those five resources. And believe it or not, a lot of times network helps a lot. If you know someone who can buy your product, like you said at the beginning, it's a good beginning.
When we started this conversation, the network that we were talking about was the first initial network that we have when we're just starting out in a career. That's very different from being a business owner and having to have a little bit more of a network of people that can help grow the business. How do we transition from that first network that we have to when that point of time where we're running a business, we need a contact here, we need things like that. How do we build our network to that stage?
I'd be lying to you if I say that I was going to be a regional director at Wharton Executive Education 10 years ago. I'd be lying to you. What happened was, and I'm going to tie this to the networking question you're asking me. What happened was, I had to find a job in the United States, and I wanted to do what I'm passionate about. But I realized that I don't have the network to start that. I wanted to give it back to the community, provide my experiences, my knowledge, and be able to help them. So I said, okay, where do I have my best network? Turkey. So I ended up going to Turkey in 2011 and working again through some connections. I was introduced to universities, and I became a program manager at one of the universities as in their executive education. And listen, I had no plans on being on executive education, but it made sense to me with all the experiences I had and all the consulting, training, advising, mentoring capabilities I created for myself. Executive education was a smart way of doing this, but I did not plan it. I'm just going to say it again. So I went to Sabancı University, spent a year and a half there, and then transferred to Bilgi University, Istanbul University, and created their executive education. Now, my skill set, my capabilities was perfect fit for them because I became, and actually executive education role is to create the bridge between academia and the business world so that you can bring those two different ends together and create learning journeys, as I call them. So that's what I did at Bill University. In the meantime, once I'm in that new executive education world, I immediately started reaching out globally to everyone that I can find in my LinkedIn profile that's part of executive education in the United States, Australia, Europe. I wasn't, because I didn't know. I almost ended up going to INSEAD actually, living in Paris. Yes, before I came to Turkey. I mean, just one person didn't agree with me, and then I didn't get the job. But that's okay. This is life. So at that time, I started building my network. I created success stories in Turkey, and the Bilgi University Executive Education Center became very successful. By the time I left, we had no executive education training days, and when I started and at the end, we had 740 days. So I left that at that time because my family was in the United States. My wife was here. So I said, enough is enough. Now I build my base as an executive education, uh, you know, leader, manager, whatever you want to call me. And I started building my network. In the meantime, I met someone from Columbia University, Mike Malefakis. He was one of the directors there. I said, I'm coming back to the United States. I like to work in a school like yourself, etc. He said, I have nothing, but if I see something, you'll know that. So, I created this. I spoke to someone at UNC, someone at Georgetown, and I built this network around me. So I'm building my network. Lo and behold, Mike Malefakis ended up in Wharton Executive Education. They opened two positions. As soon as I saw that, I applied for it, sent a note to Mike through LinkedIn. I said, Mike, help me out. I am going to come and work for Wharton Executive Education. And he knew me kind of. We had a meeting. He said he liked what I said to him. And I ended up at Wharton Executive Education. Now, in today, I even have a more extensive network, and it's all over. It's not just executive education now. I have a network within L&D, learning and development, HR, CFO, CMO, marketing officers, CEOs. I mean, that's how you build. You never stop building your network. You never know what's going to happen. And the only way to be successful is you keep opening your channels. You increase your length by creating these additional chains within your. I mean, just like this, you have an island, but you keep building your island bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're able to move around it. That's how I see it. I mean, that's how I created the network that I am in right now, and I feel very grateful that I ended up at Wharton Executive Education. I learned a lot. I met some. Oh, by the way, the faculty that I'm working with, they're world renowned. I mean, I couldn't have dreamed it. So, and I can always ask their help in any time and anywhere, even if I'm not around here. Did I answer your question?
Very, very clearly. And I think that it also shows like sometimes we may not have like I feel like sometimes we look at amazing stories like yours and we see you are right now at this amazing position, but we don't see the whole journey in between and how you leverage on your existing network to bring the network forward, to expand your connections, to expand your own experiences. And I feel like interviews like this are so important because we actually see kind of like the journey that you did and kind of like the things that you went and proactively did to connect the dots. So thank you so much. I think that is absolutely brilliant. And like today, your role is actually, in a way, advising or kind of like creating, as you said, these educational journeys for some of the biggest companies, I would argue, around the world. Some of them maybe even Fortune 500 companies, some of them household names for the rest of us. How do you actually come about, like based on your experiences? It's no wonder that you're a perfect fit for the job. Like, I completely see why like you're able to do it. But how do you process the like the issues that they bring to you, or the reason they're coming to you, and create that learning journey for them? What is the first few things that come to mind when doing that process?
Well, first thing first, the credit goes to Wharton, of course. Wharton is one of the best business schools in the world. So is UPenn, of course, one of the best universities in the world. So the expectations there is, if we go to Wharton, they're going to solve our problems. That's the expectation, because we're one of the best business schools. And that's a great advantage for me to start with, because that means if I can earn their trust, and trust earning is very critical in business. If they believe you and they trust you, you don't have to worry about anything in life. But you don't make a mistake. Don't you know? Don't let them distrust you. So once they come to us and they know that as Wharton, the faculty is amazing. I'm telling you, and I'm not doing an advertisement here. It's really good faculty, because I talk to them and I work with them. They understand the current and the future market. So that's what the business people wants to hear from. My job for that reason is to make sure I listen to our clients. In other words, what we call customer centric, understand their needs, but also do needs analysis, which is very critical, analyze the need analysis, and sometimes tell the client that what they're asking is not right. This is their problem, even if they're Fortune 500, because they're in it. It's hard for people to see the real problems if you're in the middle of it. Sometimes looking from outside in enables us to see clearer pictures, because you have your own daily grinds and you don't want to deal with those things. So that is the strength. But again, I mean, I can't do this alone. As much as I want to say, hey, I'm the best, the faculty is great. I mean, when I work with the faculty, I am aligned immediately, and that's a wonderful feeling, Harsha. I mean, that's the feeling that makes me the most happy. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. And these are Wharton faculty, and I'm like, wow, that is great. So these, it starts with Wharton, but then my experience also is important. I listen, and I actually posted something today on LinkedIn. It's Jonah Berger, one of the best faculty. I love him. Wrote about hearing is not enough. You need to listen and speak in a language that the customer understands, because we don't know how to listen. That's really this problem. We always think that we know the answer by just hearing it. So I added a few things to that today, and actually my wife was very happy because I said she's the boss in it, because I listen to her and do whatever she tells me. But joke aside, the thing is, if you do not listen and listen carefully and understand the needs, you're not going to be able to respond or solve their problems. And Jonah used his research was based on, you use concrete words so that you, as the client or the customer, when I speak to you, I understand your pains. I understand. So that's what I try to do. If I can create that, like, they trust me because I listen to them and respond in a way that I understand their pains. It's at the end of the day, Harsha, everything is human to human. We're not talking to machines. You need to have emotional connections, emotional engagements, and I call them trust. If they trust you in your businesses, you're in a good place. I think you're going to succeed for
Amazing.
anyone.
No, 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 amazingly said. I'm speechless.
No,
And no, I really am. I really am, and I think that I really love that point about you don't just. It's not about just hearing the issue and things like that. You really have to listen, and I feel like that is something that we can all take away. Even if you are not in business, even if you're just a student, or if you are running a company, I think that's something that all of us can apply at every level of our lives right now. And I just wanted to end on another note, like as we wind down our conversation,
oh,
on
we're
that.
almost done. I thought
I know, right? I
we
also
had
just like
we had 10 hours. No, okay, all right.
no, this is just part one, right? Okay, we'll be back for the sequel anyway. But
James Bond,
yeah,
007.
that's like 7 movies already, so we have a few more to go. But no, like on that point of listening, like you also mentioned a few things: building networks, having mentors, and as I see in your journey, you have mentor, but you also mentor, you also guide others in a way. And one of the things I feel, maybe it's because we're in that college student rebellious age, but sometimes we try to listen to our mentors and we don't really understand, maybe because our level of experience is yet at their level of experience. So for me, what I've learned is listen to your mentors even if you don't understand, and that as you work on the things that they tell you to, you will eventually gain that experience to understand what they were trying to say. In your experience, how do you even go about finding a mentor, and how do you go about listening to the mentor in a sense? Why is it important to have and listen to your mentor?
Look, I have only one mentor. I don't have more than one mentor. I have friends, close friends, but there's one mentor that I followed all my life. And the way I found it is I listened to him. I listened to what he was saying, and it made sense to me what he was saying. He is very smart. Let's put it that way. And your mentor should be smarter than you, because if you go to him or her, you want answers. You don't want like whitewash. You want true answers, and may or may not be what you want to hear, but I can tell you, you want answers. So, having said that, what I would suggest is listen, find people, and it doesn't have to be two, three. Network is different than mentor, as you can imagine. Create your mentor, I'm sorry, network as much as you want. Make it as big as you want. But mentor is very, very important. So listen, listen to people who make sense. Listen to their experiences. Listen to their stories. If you find someone, don't let them go. Don't let them go. Follow them, bug them, beg them. I've done all this. My mentor ended up doing my wedding. We cooked our own dinner on our wedding because we didn't have money. So that's the relationship I built with my mentor. But his name is Dr. Osman Ataç, and he's in Istanbul right now. Without him, I wouldn't be here today. I mean, as much as I did what I did, it was because I learned the basis from him. He is the creator of business management system, which United Nations International Trade Center is using. And in my brain, in the back, when I said 5 resources, that's part of what we call BMS system. That's constantly working here. So mentor, mentor, mentor. Find just mentor. Just listen to them, find who they are. Of course, you have to like them. I mean, although he wasn't, Turks are soccer fanatics. He was completely on the other side. I said, okay, that much is okay. I can accept that. So
No, okay. I think that's a very, very good, like you have given a very holistic, like sharing. I feel of like the many different parts of being successful as an individual in business, and today creating those bridges, I'd say, for others to also take like see their resources and create and go for success. And thank you so much actually for being on this show. It's been personally very enlightening, and I think our audience is equally as blown as way as I am. And I hope you had as much fun as everyone else being on today's show too.
Harsha, this was fun as always, and I'm so much take how I mean I don't want to ask your age, but for what you're doing here and what you've done last week, I think the future is yours. The future is yours. I'm so So I mean, I can look at the future and say with young people like yourself, I feel good about the future because I think a lot of good things will come out of these. And I'm very grateful that you gave me the opportunity to share my experience. And if and when anybody else has a question, I'm here. Let them get in touch with you and they can get in touch with me personally. No worries.
Thank you so much. That's very generous of you. And to everyone else, to our audience, I hope you can apply the things that we've been learning today from our amazing, amazing guest. And with that, our episode is sadly drawn to a close. Join us again next Thursday at 10 p.m. ET here on Changing Reality. And hopefully, you guys go out there and change your own reality as well. Remember, network, mentorship, building your own knowledge, getting those experiences, so many gems from today. And I am looking forward to see what all of you, our lovely audiences, are going to do with them. So, with that, thank you guys very much. And till next time, bye.
You're listening to Changing Reality. Changing Reality, where we bend reality all across the world. Only on WQHS Radio.